You've reminded me of my homoerotic thoughts, and now you've escaped with your father. Damn you. Ladies, gentlemen, and those with the good sense to do away with the whole notion, I welcome you to the premier audio medium for all your Fazbear entertainment needs. The Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast. Note, FFPP is not responsible for any loss of appetite, disinterest, dismemberment, or other legally classified statuses. So strap in and enjoy.
Fingers crossed. I mean, if not...
I'll just say clap.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1... Oh.
That was a little out of sync, I think.
No, that's fine. It's supposed to be out of sync. I'm going to leave this in the podcast episode. I bought a cheapy opal ring on vacation, and I clapped, and it shattered. So give me 1 second. And maybe because it hit my other ring, I'm not sure. 1 second.
Already a casualty, and we're like 60 seconds in. Less than that. I'm very sorry for your loss today.
That's all right. It was pretty, but I guess it served its purpose. The saying goes, if you buy a crystal ring and it breaks, it's you used it up. Anyway.
That's a saying. Okay.
After that, welcome everybody to the Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast. I'm your host, the Toast Right Toast, here with a wonderful guest. Why don't you go and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm DMuted. I do a bunch of horror content on YouTube, and recently I've been getting back into the FNAF stuff. Yeah, FNAF week.
It's been a good time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of great releases as of late, as well as some like teasers, some upcoming projects. I think it's a very exciting time to be a FNAF fan right now.
Yeah, I wanted to pull in as many guests as possible because I feel like at a time like this for FNAF, where it's very just release, announcement. It's, I mean, the saying goes, sorrow shared is sorrow halved, joy shared is joy doubled.
Yes.
So it's a good time to just talk to people about this and get hype.
Yeah, I completely agree. Part of the fun of this series has always been, trying to figure it out with other people. So I feel like with just everything that's coming out and everything to do, sharing it with other people, that's the most exciting part, which I think is we'll talk about FLAF eventually, right?
FLAF.
Yeah, there's a bit of a missed opportunity there that I think we definitely need to talk about.
So pay attention, Click Team. This one's for you. I've been talking to y'all directly. Y'all better be watching, or I'm gonna sound crazy. So I guess we can go in order as a way to kind of guide the conversation, because we're gonna be talking about a lot of FNAF week. So as far as like meaningful stuff for us to chat about, it's gonna mostly be lore, but also like, general quality and excitement. Yeah. So we'll very quickly skim past My Pop Goes to Drove Creation. Both peak. You guys should check it out.
Yeah.
Not much for us to talk about. Good. Period. Like
good, but not connected to the main story, which is our thing.
In their own ways, they are, but not as from the perspective of the main story.
Yeah, exactly.
So August 3rd then was VIP, correct?
Yes, VIP.
I've talked a whole bunch about it. What are your kind of thoughts just initially on VIP?
Well, my initial thoughts on VIP and its release is it really just I think this is like the most clear it's ever been that these books are going to be important to solving the story of the games, because this is basically a book that is a game. Let's be real.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And it makes me very excited, especially when we find out what other books are upcoming in this series. We got that Return to the Pit one. We have the Cassie one. We've got the Week Before. That one is probably the one I'm most excited about.
Yeah, the Week Before is interesting and comes out like in 2 weeks, maybe, question mark?
Something.
It comes out, September 3rd?
It's pretty soon, which,
Yeah, like 16 days we're getting that book on a Tuesday.
Yeah. As for VIP itself, I mean, it's neat. That's pretty much my thoughts on it is, oh, this is a neat story. Kind of ties things together, but it doesn't really, in my opinion, solve a whole lot or clue us into very much.
Yeah. No, I think it's kind of gives us some background information on how like Glitch Trap was operating before the beginning of Security Breach, if anything, right? I mean, well, let me ask you because I've gotten some pushback for this. Do you think VIP, specifically Very Informative Pig, is an extension of the Mimic One program?
Well, see, that's kind of hard to pinpoint because we also have the storyteller, and for a while that was like the story that tells us, okay, this is how it got in, this is how that all
Hmm.
happened. But very VIP presumably happens before that.
Yeah,
So
which is interesting.
yeah, which makes me wonder, like, okay, so what's the deal? Are these two separate entities, or did something just happen earlier? I think what I am coming to like the conclusion of is that Storyteller is not how uh Mimic One, Glitch Trap, whatever you want to call it, got in to the
Hmm.
Pizzaplex. It got in through VIP and it spread throughout with Storyteller. I think that's how I'm like coping right now.
I think that could make sense because it kind of throws a wrench into Tales games that now you have to explain either the storyteller wasn't the first time the Mimic One program entered the Pizzaplex, or VIP somehow isn't the Mimic One program. Because like we don't have definitive evidence that VIP is the Mimic One program or an extension of it. But the fact that it copied an already existing character and exists digitally to capture children, essentially,
Right.
it feels pretty Mimic One coded. So it's and like not to mention again, it's not one for one, but like the um what I forget exactly how you get this ending. I think it's if you go
Are you talking about the backroom ending?
the backroom
Yeah,
ending when the both of you when you don't make the promise to VIP.
that feels very Afton coded as well.
That's very after because you're literally being led through hallways to a back room.
Yeah, it
Like
I think the best way to put it is, okay, first off, we also need to say there is the dark ending where it turns out this book is not related to anything and is its own thing.
the
That's the
very
dark ending.
very bleak timeline where the Into the Pit game and the Choose Your Own Adventure novels are in their own specific universe.
Yeah, that
Very dark, twisted possibility.
yeah. If that is the case, I want to say for the record, Scott Cawthon, you are a sick man.
Yeah, 100%. Especially the only thing that gives that credence is that the summary of Return to the Pit specifically states that that book is the basis for the Into the Pit game,
Yeah, and
which is sick and twisted and makes me upset.
yeah, that makes me think we should have gotten that book first, right?
Right?
I mean,
Or at least before the week before.
it kind of like boggles my mind a little bit because I feel like a lot of this stuff is not releasing in the original intended order.
Yeah. So there yeah, cuz there is that technical possibility. I think where I lean right now because with VIP and the Scott Cawthon interview, which we can touch on, but it's harder to remember bits from that.
Yeah,
Um, with those two combined, I am leaning towards Tales games. Especially knowing that Security Breach did not launch with a story that Scott directly intended.
I do.
Because my
Sorry,
sorry, go on. No, you go on.
okay, I just watching the Scott interview just made a lot of things click into place for me. Like,
Hmm.
for instance, I I think we don't have a case for Cassidy being the princess anymore in Princess Quest, because
Yeah.
we know now for a fact that there was stuff in that game that Scott did not intend, and we know that that
Hmm.
got taken out. I think that tells me that's something Scott really did not want in there.
Hmm. And you're right. The fact that specifically that file name, which I don't think there's ever been a file name to change post launch outside of the Cassidy Princess.
It does make me wonder
I
about
think
it does make me also wonder things like, why haven't things like Charlie Door changed, you know? Are those just
yep.
intentional?
If only Cassidy was the file name Cassidy was changed, are the other ones that haven't been changed either haven't been noticed somehow or um supposed to be there? I mean, there's also the possibility that to that credit of that theory, there's another possibility that it's not that Cassidy's file name, the Princess Cassidy file name was changed because it's wrong, but it could be that that's much too early for a confirmation like that.
Yeah, it could have been changed because it was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it again, a horrible thing we have to grapple with.
Yeah. Uh, bringing it back around to VIP,
Mhm.
I think first off, I'm really glad that it straight up like says, you know, the Pizzaplex is ever evolving. It's changing
Yeah.
structurally. It really does seem like it is explaining why Tales games is or not Tales games, why the Tales books are not one to one with what we see in the game. That was something I picked up on. It seems like it's trying to
Mhm.
explain why those two things don't line up fully.
Kind of being like a transition between Tales books and the game. Like,
Right. Which also makes
oh,
it
it's
weird.
about to go through massive renovation. And like, oh, okay, I guess. Like,
Yeah, which and that just makes it even weirder that we have very informative pig kind of clashing with Tiger Rock as our like mimic entry point.
I think if I had to nail down a guess for the Mimic One timeline of this, because VIP definitely takes place before the storyteller, like definitively.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, FNAF AR has a series of emails where it seems like Vanessa uploads the Mimic One program to the Pizzaplex. And previously, people have explained that away as, oh, well, it's a record of it happening, so she got caught and it didn't work. And that's why storyteller needs to happen. What this might maybe be telling us is that VIP is showing us it did work, but some kid beat it. And the good ending is the true ending.
Okay, and that
So
would
then they
mean
had to start
storyteller is
over
like
with the
plan B.
storyteller.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I kind
Which,
of
like,
mess with
I
that theory.
could see that. That seems like that's like in my brain the most logical possibility for Tales games, because I just don't like the explanation that VIP is a different, separate AI that acts almost identical to the Mimic One program.
Yeah. I mean, there is that. It could also just be I've been thinking lately, um, what if just like the mimic as we know it in Glitch Trap just exists as two different minds, you know? So what if one
I
of them
could
is
see
Glitch
that.
Trap and one of them is just mimic?
I could see that, especially how in Ruin, Grimmick and Helpy seem to clash at times.
Yeah, they're like
So maybe that's leaning into that.
they're like bitter exes.
True. Hey, speaking of, how have you been liking Book of Bill so far?
I
Sorry, that's a shout to my Bill Stan shippers out there.
oh my god. You know,
I guess
it's
just Bill Ford or whatever, however the ship
Bilford.
name is.
I'm actually not that big into Gravity Falls. I haven't seen all that much of it. But the Book of
Mm.
Bill has like blown up my Twitter timeline, so I'm learning a lot more
Oh
about
yeah,
this guy than I ever have.
yeah. I mean, I think it's the fact that like it kind of shook the sleeping bear of that fandom. I mean, because it had such a strong fandom, and then there was no content for that show for like 8+ years.
Yeah, I get that. Imagine if like the FNAF series went dormant and then finally Scott like rises from his coffin and he just says,
His Scott coffin.
yeah, his Scott coffin.
Yeah.
He says, "Finally, fans, it's here. Five Nights at Freddy's 12. Charlotte comes
The
back."
Albert Files.
The Albert,
The Afton Files.
the Afton Files. Four
Yeah,
Aftons you've never seen before. They're back.
It's the colored crew who have always been there that we all know about.
Oh yeah, you remember those four dudes?
Purple guy, green guy, yellow guy, and oh god, what was the fourth one? Blue
Orange
guy.
guy.
Orange guy.
Yeah,
I saw the meme like twice.
I prefer to think of them as Michael, Bikel, Cycle, and Lykel.
True. Um, and yeah, I think that's pretty much everything about VIP that like can be said. I mean, it makes me excited for the others because it was a good book. It was fun to do.
Yeah, it's a good time. I do think when they get longer, that's when we're gonna find out if we actually like this format for the series.
Yeah, because this was half the length of the rest of them.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. Um, I have a question for we could sprinkle in questions throughout because I do have a question of VIP
Okay.
that we can use here.
Yeah.
We'll break the format a little bit. This question's from Pack, he, him. Thank you for your question. If you want your question sent on the podcast, you can send them into Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast at gmail.com. You can copy and paste that. It's in the description. It's a pain to type. There was a Spotify Q&A feature. Now it's just a poll feature. So I guess get fucked. The question is, ever since I read VIP, I was wondering why the max occupancy experience, MOE, uses a Glamrock Freddy head. And then I thought of something. What if MOE's head is from that prototype Glamrock Freddy we see in Ruin? Thank you for your question.
I mean,
Do you have any initial thoughts? Because I've been thinking about this question.
I get it, but also I just feel like in Ruin, it seems like very connected to the Princess Quest ending, where that is just Freddy's head at the end of it.
I
It makes me
that's my
think.
initial thought.
It makes me think that like if that is the case, that definitely wasn't the intention when Ruin was being created.
Yeah, I agree. Because like I really feel like the prototype stamp. There's a couple ways you could explain that away or explain that like connection. But the fact that we have an ending in Security Breach where Freddy is left in Phaser Blast with damage to his chest and without a head, and then we see Freddy in Ruin in Phaser Blast with damage to his chest without a head.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's saying, right?
Yeah,
like,
that just
I
seems like
see...
a very obvious connection.
Yeah, if I had to guess anything for why it's a Glamrock Freddy head and not like a visor or glasses, I wonder if once we put the MOE on, if it's more AR or more VR. Because FNAF does have a tendency to misuse those words at times. If it's just VR, Devin might not stand up after he puts that MOE on. He might just be in there.
Yeah. It could just be like a different type of the Vanny mask, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, but
Someone brought up a good point in another podcast, one of their questions. I don't think it's ever directly stated that we take off the MOE, which is a good point to bring up.
That's a good point.
Granted, we do unplug the main server of the building, so there's a chance that once we did that, it shuts off when we take it off. Like there's things that don't get stated that can be implied,
Yeah.
but it's never directly stated.
See,
It's like how the creepy security guard, it's never directly stated that Devin tells him his name, but he still says, "You did a good job, Devin."
see, this is one of the things I actually kind of like dislike a little bit about the current story and solving the lore is we can't really trust anything once they
Correct.
introduce an element like VR or AR.
VR, AR, illusion disc, nightmare gas,
Like
ball pit, agony, hallucinations. Like
at first, I thought stuff like the Vanny mask or the nightmare gas, like, yeah, that's awesome. That explains so much. We don't need to look into it that hard anymore. And now it's like, please give me something solid to grasp onto. I'm drowning here.
I mean, there's the point. I brought this up recently. If Gregory was GGY at some point and used a Vanny mask, he would have received an occipital nerve chip.
Yeah. And that,
So even if he's not wearing a Vanny mask throughout all of Security Breach, we can't trust anything he sees in Security Breach.
the good ending is that is how the burn trap ending is explained. He just
I mean,
hallucinated
I'm kind of
him instead
leaning
of the
that
mimic.
way. The fact that Burn Trap was intended to not move and just be like a hallucination in your vision, I am kind of leaning that way, that Burn Trap was just a way for Glitch Trap to try to like re-traumatize him back into GGY or some shit.
There's so many different explanations for what burn trap could be now, and I think that one is
Yep.
probably just going to be like that one is probably it. I feel.
Yeah. It's either that or just like maybe that's just what he looks like once you're already under his control. He doesn't have to pretend to be Glitch Trap anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, at that point,
Eh.
why doesn't Cassie see him as Burn Trap, you know?
Yeah. Very true, very true. I don't know, it's really interesting there. And then yeah, God. Because that was my I don't think I'm ready to say I'm a Frights Games believer yet. I think I still need to swallow the Into the Pit story, and we'll get to there.
I was a
But
denier for so long, but I think I might be a truther now.
my big hang up was I thought Burn Trap's flesh came from William Afton's corpse. And if that's true,
And he goes,
Frights cannot be in the games.
Yeah.
Frights, like he explodes in Frights. That can't be true if Frights are in game. But if Burn Trap's a hallucination, I suddenly don't have a big hang up anymore.
You know, that wouldn't be like the first time we've had a Spring Bonnie suit full of flesh unexplainedly. In fact, that's
True.
what the most recent game is.
That is kind of half of FNAF. But I guess that's VIP. We can move on sequentially. So after that was the Steelwool interview or the Scott interview. I don't remember a lot of it in the sense that like if I made notes on it, there's a lot to talk about, but I didn't make notes on it, so I can't really pluck out a lot of what happened. I don't know if you have any like specific things you wanted to bring up from that.
Just some like mental notes and stuff. I think it's like very important that we now know Security Breach was not in the that was not Scott's vision when he was making the game.
Yeah,
and the story he was
and that
telling.
like after Security Breach is course correction.
Yeah,
that's important.
After Security
like
Breach,
Ruin,
we get
Help Wanted 2.
Yeah, all of that.
I mean, arguably Tails. You know,
I feel like since Scott is definitely more involved with Tails than he was with Security Breach, I feel like that almost feels more canon than the actual game to me.
You know what? You're right. Hey, Security Breach isn't canon. We can dark, horrible end. I do like that he specified like, hey, it is too late now. We will just course correct. But like, I'm not saying Security Breach didn't happen.
Yeah, it's a good thing he said that because I know for a fact people would have gone nuts over that. They cut Security Breach out of the timeline like a tumor or something. It's like, goodbye. Fuck God, you, Roxy, I guess. I don't know.
Imagine a FNAF fan. Imagine a FNAF fan who the games are non-canon, but the books are canon. Which, like, I guarantee you, that's not at like that minute minority of the fandom.
There's someone out there. There's someone out there. We'll find them.
And yeah, I think that's really the take. That and like, I do want to put it out there. Some people have said what Scott said about the box means that he forgot what's in it. I don't think that's what he's saying.
No.
When you listen to the way he talks about it, it feels like he knows what's in the box, but to get to that in the current story isn't really worth it. And there's no natural way to bring that up.
To me, what it sounded like was Scott was saying he never intended anything to be in the box in the first place, but he wanted to do something with it in the future, but he just couldn't find a way to bring it back around. I don't think there ever was anything actually in the box. I think he just hadn't thought of what he wanted to be in there by the time it came around to writing that storyline. So he just didn't write it.
Yeah. And now we're just too far gone.
Yeah. And honestly,
I guess
who cares?
Since there's no way to be wrong, what's your now every theory is correct on it. So what's your correct theory on what's in the box?
Well, I am a proponent of the metaphor theory that it is just like everything put together. It's all the answers. But if I had to pick like a physical item that I think would be in the box, I feel like it would probably have to be the walkie-talkies connected to the Fredbear plush.
I like that. I think since my kind of like FNAF World Midnight Motorist theory earlier this year, late last year, I've been of the proponent that that's just the Crying Child's coffin, and that's what's buried in Midnight Motorist, which is a little weird, but I think with FNAF World it kind of gives it some credence.
The thing I don't like about that with Midnight Motorist specifically is just because Why does he not have a tombstone then?
Because he died at home and William Afton didn't want people to know, question mark? I don't know. My only idea of it is since he sees people as objects to experiment with,
He just
when the
buries
crying child
one of them.
well, I think when the crying child died for real, it was like, well, I can't keep him around, but I might be able to use him later. So I'm just gonna put him over here. Which like isn't out of character for William.
That literally just reminds me of this like John Mulaney bit where he just goes, "Your boy has died. Good, good. Bury the boy. Bury the boy.
Yeah.
Bury the boy."
Oh, yep. Good old Angela's ashes where you're carrying your son's coffin. It's like, well, we're on the way to the funeral. Let's get a beer. I'm just gonna put the coffin on the table. Rest my Guinness cup on the white coffin. Just relax for a bit.
Oh my god.
Man, if anyone in the audience haven't read Angela's Ashes for their English class, very messed up story. Very sad. Good book though. It really explores poverty in Ireland. Anyway.
I think
so
that's like it for the Scott interview, I think, that I have to say.
I feel like, yeah.
Yeah.
So August 4th, I should have just pulled up the Scott Games tweet so I know what's coming up next. Because I'll tell you what.
I think it was 5 laps next.
I think it was. My history doesn't bring up the correct order because things did get shifted around a bit. No, 5 laps is second to last. So it was Scott Cawthon interview.
Oh,
then
Steel
the
Wool announcement.
Steel Wool announcement.
Yeah, Secrets of the Mimic.
Or no, was it the collab announcement first?
No, it was
because
the collab.
I feel like
it was the collab, then Secrets
it was
of the
collab,
Mimic,
and then it was
5
Steel
laps.
Wool.
Yeah, I got like
Okay,
the complete wrong order.
No, you're good. Because it was originally Steel Wool interview collab, but things had to get changed around. My guess is the collab announcement was shifted.
Yeah.
That's my guess. Because I feel like that's the thing he has the least control on.
So actually I think just based on so first off, the collab is with Dead by Daylight, which that's huge.
Which peak.
Yeah.
Peak. I said when I was making my prediction that I was like, Dead by Daylight is too cool to happen, so it's probably going to be Fortnite. Like that was my prediction. Was I want Dead by Daylight, but it's probably not going to happen.
I feel like everyone and their mother was betting on Fortnite.
I could never have been more happy to be wrong.
Yeah.
I've wanted Dead by Daylight. Everyone's wanted Dead by Daylight in FNAF since since the first person thought of it happening.
Consistently, like anytime there's been a poll, what character do you want in Dead by Daylight? The number one answer for like multiple years in a row was Springtrap.
It just makes sense.
Yeah. But I was going to say, I don't think it was Behavior who was changing when that announcement happened. That seems much more like Scott changing it and them having to announce it at a time when they didn't want to. Because this is
you think maybe that's the delay?
It was a very, very early announcement for something coming out in summer of 2025, and Behavior like never does an announcement that early.
Fair. To be fair though, like you just said, this is an unprecedentedly like wanted announcement.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of another Dead by Daylight crossover that has been more asked for. I can think of ones that have been more hyped up on release. I mean, we'll see when we get there. But as far as like characters people have been directly asking for, I can't think of one that's been more.
It's literally been like for years it was okay, we need Predator, we need Springtrap, and we need Stranger Things Vecna. Now we have D&D Vecna.
We got two of them.
We have D&D Vecna, and we're getting Freddy.
God, part of me really hopes. Hopefully, we'll see. Part of me really hopes that. I don't know if I want. So what do you? I guess we've played a lot of D&D or Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what that collab is going to be? Like the killer characters, things like that.
So I'm actually kind of working on a video right now. What I want it to be, what I think it is going to be, especially since Blumhouse responded to the collab announcement. I think it's definitely going to be based on the movie. Which tells me we're either going to be getting Yellow Rabbit, or we're going to be getting one of the animatronics. I think it's more likely to be Yellow Rabbit since he actually like has a weapon, and
Makes sense.
most
And
DVD
if it's the movie, sorry, continue.
No, continue.
All right, I was just gonna say, and most it being the movie makes the pick for Survivor a lot easier on Dead by Daylight and Scott as well.
Yeah, there's not really any choices if you want to go for the main game series because like there are rules that they instill.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the number one rule is you can't have any characters under the age of 18.
Yeah, which like makes sense for a game like Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
You don't want brutal child death in your video game more often than not. So I think that makes a lot of sense because if it's games, your really only option for Survivor would be a massive reveal.
It would either have to be like a more realistic take on Vanessa from Security Breach, or they'd have to actually give like an official Michael Afton model or something.
Which, hey, Scott,
You know,
if
I'm not against
somehow
that.
you got here, I would love an official render of Michael so I can stop using your sister location happy guy walking down the street sprite.
No, you know what? There is a best ending here. The survivor is actually Markiplier. He's just
That would be peak.
Hello, everybody. It's
He
me,
is our
Markiplier,
only
and I
other
am
official-
walking into the fog.
He is our only other official game human, so that would be actually peak.
Oh my god, that's true.
he is
I
the
completely
spokesperson for
forgot
AR.
about that.
He's in the games. He's very real. He came to the games. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the most likely outcome right now, at least, is movie Yellow Rabbit. And if we're lucky, Josh Hutcherson Survivor. If we're really lucky, Josh Hutcherson Elizabeth Lau Survivor.
Yeah, they could do 2 survivors. The Stranger Things chapter and both Resident Evil chapters had 2 survivors, but that's like a rare thing. So I don't know if they're going to do that.
I feel like, and also Elizabeth Lau is more of like an anti-hero in that movie. So like having Mike be the survivor makes a lot of sense.
I think the thing I'm most excited for outside of just who it's going to be, who gets picked, is going to be like the map that comes with it because they have to make a map for it.
The map and the cinematics and like having a Mori where we have a really well rendered cutscene of someone in a Spring Bonnie suit killing someone. That's going to be used in every FNAF video moving forward. Are you kidding me? There is also the option it's going to be movie Springtrap and kind of a tease for what we'll see in FNAF 2.
That is a good point. They could definitely do that, especially since that DLC is coming out summer 2025, and the movie is going to be coming out the next season.
Yeah, so like it could be a good like, oh, here's a first look at what you're gonna see this fall. Keep your eyes out.
It could be that. I don't know if it would be that because I don't think
it might.
I don't think DBD's ever done like a movie character being revealed in their game or something like that.
True. I mean, what it could also be is it's the Yellow Rabbit, and maybe down the line we get a skin of the Springtrap variant.
Yeah, that's kind of what they're doing with Alien right now with the Alien Romulus cosmetics.
I still need to see that. I've only ever seen like 1 or 2 Alien movies. They're good. I've just never really like, oh, I gotta see it. And the fact that everyone I know has been like, oh yeah, Romulus fucked me up. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch it.
Romulus, straight up scariest movie in the series, definitely. Might even be the best one.
I'm very everything I've heard from it is go watch it. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise for the chapter.
What do you think the killer's moves are gonna be?
So okay, I will say this because this is what I've been hoping for like forever. I'm really hoping that if we play as Yellow Rabbit, when you down a survivor, you have an option instead of putting them on a hook. I want you to be able to put them in a springlock suit.
Yeah,
and
like that'd be really sick.
Kind of like how the pig in DBD has her reverse bear traps. It gives survivors something else to do instead of generators. They have to get that thing off. And what I would really think is a fun mechanic for it is the springlock suit is totally harmless, but if they try running, they'll randomly get skill checks. And if they fail those, they get hurt.
That would be pretty sick, actually. I didn't think about it being like, since we're all adults here, we could feasibly move in a Springlock suit.
Yeah, exactly. They'd just be like running around wearing these suits, like try to find another survivor, help me get this thing off. Or
Mhm.
I'll die.
Yeah.
That's my ideal
Uh,
power.
that's interesting. I do like that. I was wondering because I think I don't know what's more likely, something like that or spring locking being one of his mores. Um, because that also seems pretty fitting to have a mori where you're being put into a suit and he activates the spring lock.
Picture
Or I guess breaks it.
picture this, if you will. Maury,
Mhm.
he just like takes off the spring bonnie head, just lowers it on yours, and it just goes off. Your head is
That'd
instantly
be pretty
crushed.
sick. That would be pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
Um, what I was thinking for like a main gimmick, and this is definitely wishful thinking, but if we're gonna have this once in a lifetime FNAF Dead by Daylight crossover, I'm gonna be greedy for what I want from it. As far as his like mechanical gimmick in the movie, especially, but in the games as well, but especially in the movie, it is stated multiple times he has control over the animatronics.
Oh, I think I know where you're taking this.
If he spawns in, the main four also spawn in the map. And it's sort of done. I don't know the specifications of how it would be controlled because I don't think all four could just be roaming. That might be too strong.
They could be
But I also
deactivated.
don't. Yeah, I maybe it's a matter of like you can control any of them at one time. Maybe I'm not sure, but in some way controlling the animatronics throughout the map. So you don't know, like, if I walk by Freddy right now, will I be spotted or is he inactive?
To be fair, that does sound very much like a mechanic that they would do now. Especially when you look at characters like the twins. The twins' whole gimmick is it's two killers. Or you look at
Fair.
something like the knight. The knight's whole gimmick is, oh, I can summon help. Or now you got Dracula. Dracula's whole thing is I can switch between different forms that do different things.
Fair. That was the only thing that leads me to be like, I kind of hope it's a games character. Is I don't think he's gotten nearly enough brand recognition
Mimic.
yet to be the Dead by Daylight character. But the Mimic,
Yeah.
if he spawns in like several racks of empty exoskeletons, would be a very fun character. If the gimmick is you can hide in them, you can swap between them, so on and so forth.
That was also my ideal mimic power. I what I wanted it to be is like there's like 5 or 6 random suits like the ones you see in Ruin just littered throughout the map. He can crawl
Yep.
inside one, move it around, and pretend to just be an empty suit. So when someone walks by, he just nabs them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that'd be really sick. I don't think the Mimic's got the brand recognition yet, but man, that would be cool.
Yeah, he would be a really cool addition to the game. This is probably the thing I was most excited for until I actually played Into the Pit.
Yeah, Into the Pit blew me away, which I guess we'll move on, not to the Into the Pit yet, but speaking of the Mimic,
Secrets
the
of
next
the
day,
Mimic.
we get Secret of the Mimic, the teaser. I just put out my full like taking a 30-second video and making it into a 20-minute video breakdown. But like what are your thoughts on Secret of the Mimic? Because I'm excited. Holy shit.
I am very excited. First off, I think this is what Steel Wool was referring to back when they said they wanted to make a game that like took things back to the beginning of the timeline.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely that game that they had planned.
Mm-hmm.
The things that immediately jumped out in my mind, 1979, and you got a character who, let's face it, that is like absolutely the Mimic, but they're in a puppet
Yeah.
box. What does that mean?
Which is interesting. It's very interesting, the connection they're drawing between the Mimic and the puppet.
I think
It's even the same. The song is the same as well. Like, it's not just like, oh, it's in a box short. No, the same song.
Yeah, it's my
coming out of
grandfather
a
clock.
Jack in the Box box. Like, that is very interesting.
I think what it might end up being, because I don't think the Mimic and the puppet are the same character or anything like that.
I agree.
But I do think, hear me out on this. Hear me out on this.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the staff bots in Security Breach, they all resemble the puppet to an extent, you know? They have the streaks under
Yes.
their eyes, they have the cheeks, and then you get the nightmare staff bots. and they resemble Nightmarian. And you get the nightmare plushes that are around the whole
Mhm.
Pizzaplex, and it all, what does it build up to? It doesn't really build up to anything, but we have the Mimic now. And I'm thinking maybe that's the connection. The Mimic is like essentially the evil puppet or whatever.
I could see, especially with the fact that the nightmare staff bots all had in your dreams, and that was never super clear. And all of the times they've posted this trailer, they've said it's a new nightmare.
Yeah. It,
Which, like, sure, that is just like horror game speak, but is that important?
I'm not fully convinced that like the Mimic is the puppet or anything like that, but there is like a
Mhm.
shocking connection between those two characters now. And I think looking back through Security Breach and seeing all that puppet imagery without the puppet themselves being there, it's very fascinating to me what it could even mean.
Yeah. I what do you think of the? Did you see the paper pal theory about this?
I am not familiar with the paper pal theory.
So I'm gonna send you a picture on Discord.
Okay.
Because somebody, I don't know if they were joking or not, but somebody posted a picture, and I devoted like the latter half of my video specifically to like thinking about that. So this is the original iteration of the paper pals from FNAF 2.
Okay. Yeah, as I recognize them.
Um, what what do you think of the idea that clown, the third paper pal being this Secret of the Mimic character, the suit that it's actively wearing in the trailer?
If that is the case, then this is this is one of two things. Either the longest con Scott has ever pulled ever, or it's a retcon. I always thought that Paper Pal was meant to be Balloon Boy, but if it
See,
really is
I've heard
this,
that too.
it,
Because people brought that up when I went on Twitter when I retweeted the person who, I think like FNAF Paper Pals on Twitter is the person who originally posted it,
hmm,
and I said, "Holy shit!" And people were saying it's Balloon Boy. Wouldn't the nose be a triangle?
yeah, that's a good point. Um, in any case, I don't hate the idea. It does make me wonder
Hmm.
what relevance it has to the 87 pizzeria, if that's the case.
My thinking of it, because it's next to a Freddy and a Bonnie, my only thinking that I was able to connect it to something, because I've been saying since like February that I think, and I don't think this is an uncommon theory or like brand new ground or anything, that like Fall Fest was likely a trial space for characters that were then adopted into Freddy's restaurants.
Hmm.
Um, and part of that was, uh, I think a lot of the plan to be characters in Circus Baby's Pizza World that never came to be spawned at Fall Fest as well. And I think my linking thought for this is, we have these three paper pals, the bunny, the rabbit, or sorry, the bunny, the bear, and the clown. Is it possible there was always that Springlock suit and sister location that was never used the way it was intended to be?
Hmm.
Is it possible that the original two Springlock suits were three, and it was a rabbit, a bear, and a clown? And we're going to see this third Springlock suit we've never seen before.
And I mean, looking at the image, he does have that seam down the middle of his face. That does look like
Right?
a
Like,
fun time face.
it's been pointed out that like this face does not line up with, from what we can see, it doesn't line up with the Night 4 sister location inside face. But I'm right now willing to see that as one of those like indie dev slight tweaks to the canon
Right.
of,
Eh,
we're trying to tell a story. It's not going to be one to one because that game came out 6 years ago and we want a cool design.
Being a FNAF fan,
Like,
half of it is excusing design changes like that. I mean, we're supposed to believe that the
yeah,
Wizards became the classics. Yeah.
exactly. And the whole button debacle with Follow Me, like,
Yeah.
um, so that's where I'm at right now. But that is heavy speculation. That could be entirely wrong.
I did just have a thought.
Hmm.
If you remember the Tales books, the
Hmm.
reason that we're given for the whole Mimic line shutting down is they started acting human in ways that were not intended. And that's
Correct.
all we really get on it. We don't know what they did, but we know there were at one point multiple mimics.
Yep. Whole
And
line of them.
so here's my thought process. What is something that we hear Phone Guy say about the puppet in FNAF 2? One of the few things he says is he doesn't like it because it's always thinking. What if, and this is entirely speculation, but based on what I've seen of this new game, and based on that, and everything else I can think of right now, I'm thinking maybe the puppet is one of those old mimics.
Maybe. It would I guess it would most likely be the program, right? Because we don't think the puppet has an endoskeleton necessarily.
Maybe we know that they're able to fit.
Maybe
We know that we know the mimic's a skinny fella on his own, and we know that he can change his body to fit different suits.
And if we're willing to excuse design changes, if we see like a slightly thicker version of the puppet in this game, bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
I mean, what is Security Puppet if not a thicker version of the puppet?
Yeah, and that's a very good point. There are other iterations of the puppet. For all we know, their design could have changed throughout the years as well, or been renovated.
Fair. And if Phone Guy was with the company for a long time, maybe he's thinking of a previous version of the puppet as well.
Yeah, and also consider the mini game with Charlotte. It's doing a job. It's guarding. To me, that doesn't read like the normal behavior of an animatronic. That could absolutely be like learned behavior.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention the Tales books. Speaking of things that we can pull from the Tales books, what is the thing that is mentioned in the story of the Mimic and ends up being used to kill the Mimic in the books? "Quote unquote" kill the Mimic.
The Jester
but
suit.
Jester Springlock suit.
Yeah.
That looks like a Jester Springlock suit to me, like in the teaser.
It could be. I'm not saying anything concrete as of yet. That is my thought process. I think that's where this might be going. That the puppet is at least the puppet before FNAF 2 was a mimic, and that could be why it has its unique personality. That's what separates it.
I think there is a lot of grounds to say, especially like this teaser. You cannot deny they are drawing a conscious connection to the puppet for some reason.
Yes.
No, this game looks. I've said it before. It feels fan made, not because it's bad, but because it's really well done and almost on the nose for how close it is to what fans have been asking for.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And especially,
it's so directly what people want that it feels fan made. Like, I guess it feels too good to be true, I guess.
To me, it mostly feels fan made because I could never imagine the current story actually going back to a character as old as the puppet and bringing them back in some way.
Exactly. And like giving us that origin game. And also, the title Secret of the Mimic is so on the nose about what we're curious about that it's like, really? You're not even like pretending to like be ambiguous about this?
Yeah, why is it not called like Five Nights at Freddy's? I know what you did last fall.
Revengeance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's hype. Very, very excited for that. And then on the 7th, we got 5 Laps at Freddy's.
Let's go.
I'm gonna start with the question I plucked from the email because it just straight up. We're gonna answer it as we go. It's from Oppo13 Pro. Him. Thank you for your question. FNAF is an amazing and buggy game for me, but what about you? And then it goes in like, what are 3 things you like, 3 things you hate? We're gonna be talking a while, but
yeah.
What are your thoughts, I guess, on 5 Laps at Freddy's?
I don't really hate it. When I first played it, I straight up did not like it. I thought this game feels terrible to control. Mechanics are just Mario Kart but worse. But I gotta admit, the more I played, and like, it kind of becomes, can I do better? It has a very arcade-like feel to it that I feel like a lot of kart racers don't have, in the sense that like I want to constantly get a better score or things like that. I actually think, I'll save my full thoughts for when the full game comes out, but I think, there's something there. And the art style is like adorable. I love it.
I agree. I think the art's one of the strongest things it has going for it is the art style. Like the models are really, really solid. I know people have been saying they're mixed on Bonnie's model. I like Bonnie's model. I think it's charming.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Bonnie looks fine. People are just mean.
the Yeah, quit bullying my baby. Lolbit especially. Now, granted, we don't technically see Lolbit in the demo, but she's there. You can just go like behind and see them. Um, but they are so fucking cool. I love their model. If you couldn't tell by my Twitter profile picture. But I think I agree with you. Especially like I think I agree with a lot of what people have been saying, but I do genuinely very much like this demo. I agree with what I think Aya was saying in one of his videos that like maybe it was not ready for a public demo. And I get like for an anniversary thing, it makes sense, but they could have polished it a little bit more before it was a public demo.
You know what they could have done? They literally, I think FNAF fans would have just been satisfied if they showed a trailer. But they showed the trailer and then released the demo.
Genuinely, if they just didn't have the sinkhole in the demo.
Yeah.
It would have been a smaller demo, and there still would have been bugs, but I think most of the people experienced the worst bugs in the sinkhole.
The sinkhole was unplayable, really. I remember the first time I played the sinkhole, I was actually doing very well. I got into first place, and I held it for a very long time. Up until I accidentally went into the beauty salon. And when that came out, it was a looping glitch where if you left, nope, you're back in
You're
there.
just there now. I heard I'm on the beta branch now. I'm probably gonna do one more stream of it and then call that for a while. Cause like, look, I've played it for almost 7 hours. There's 3 tracks. Like,
there's 3 tracks and 3 cards.
It's really fun. But I've heard in the beta branch they've released a patch to like fix a lot of those bugs. So we'll see. I don't necessarily think they need to really work on bugs for the demo. It's a demo. My only thoughts because I like how it drives for the most part. There are things that need to be adjusted. And I like the speeds you can reach. I really like a fast kart racer. And if you're driving optimally, this thing goes fast. I think it was built for that in mind, because if you're not driving at like peak speeds, it feels a little awkward.
There is a mechanic I'm not a fan of. And it's because I have no idea how to actually deal with it. I don't like the wolf dude that shows up, the Mad Endo, I think it's called.
From my perspective, it's just a risk versus reward thing. As long as you have like 30% or more battery, you're probably not going to get targeted by him. So it's how much battery are you willing to risk versus how much can you have entering night mode, and how much can you get while you're in night mode.
It to me very much feels like what if blue shells were a thing in Mario, but instead of just affecting the person in first place, it was just random who it targeted.
Yeah, the thing that sucks about it is like I think the idea behind it is it punishes people who are using too much boost. And the thinking being, if you're boosting too much, you're probably like in first to fourth. So you like it balances the game when they get punished. But and maybe this is because there's no online and you're only playing against computers. 99 times out of 100, it's just going to attack someone in 7th place who's used all of their boosts. And then it just kicks them while they're down.
Yeah.
Because the computers are flippant with their battery usage.
It's very funny. It's very funny. The computers
if you're
weird.
playing well, you won't be attacked with it. And I think that's just because you're only playing against computers. Maybe in a race of all humans, it's going to be more up in the air who gets hit by it. I don't know. That's another thing. Click Team. Online multiplayer in your final release, or nobody will play your video game.
Legitimately.
That's hard stop.
Legitimately.
Hard stop.
All, not just some, all of the enjoyment of a kart racer comes from being able to race your friends and rub it in their noses when they lose.
Yep. If you do not do that, it will stop being popular within a week. It'll have YouTubers play it for the first week and no one will play it afterwards. I guarantee you. Meanwhile, if it's online, even if it's bad, people will be playing that for years. Guaranteed.
Yeah, there will be like daily live streams. It'll be like Dawko and Fusion Z Gamer and also Matt Pack comes out of retirement just to race FNAF. Like
guaranteed. Yeah. Like it is so crucial for this game's success to have online multiplayer. And I get like online servers are expensive. Tell Scott. Tell him directly. Be like, if you want this, because you have the opportunity to have the first official online multiplayer Five Nights at Freddy's game.
I think Scott would go
huge.
for it.
I think Scott would pay whatever I think Scott has the money to afford an online server for Five Labs at Freddy's. Fuck, it'll be shitty. Make it peer to peer. Done. Like, at least private lobbies peer to peer are doable.
Yeah. I don't mind hosting an entire slew of FNAF YouTubers from my computer.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
I'll do it. I don't care if it makes it bad. I'll do it. And finally, Click Team, if you're still watching, which you should be, I've said it before, I'll say it again. 3 things you need to change, and it will drive perfectly. The bugs, whatever. 80% of the bugs happen if you go off-road, skill issue. Here's what you need to change to make this game fun. You should not be able to go 180 degrees unless you're pressing an emergency brake. The fact that you can go 180 degrees while drifting is weird. Fix that. Going vertical should not slow you down as much as it does. Going up hills and going off ramps, when you land, you lose a lot of speed.
Yeah.
You want momentum to build when you go in the air, not go away.
It feels very janky with that. You want momentum to keep going, like a roller coaster.
The physics engine needs to be fixed. It feels one of the biggest examples, I think, because Midnight Motorist, if you're going fast enough, that big jump doesn't slow you down too much. One of the biggest examples of it feeling bad in the sinkhole when you go through the beauty salon, no matter how fast or slow you're going, you will lose your speed in midair and fall straight down. And it feels bad.
It just feels like a clunk. Like, oh my God, I'm worried about my digital car's suspension.
Exactly. Like, that needs to be fixed. And I get there's a suspension stat. I assume that's for jumping? I don't know. It feels bad. That needs to be fixed. And what was the third option? It was weird 180, weird verticals. Oh, I have 3 things consistently, and I always forget one of them.
Oh yeah, I got a big one. Why did you not include Roxy?
Yeah, true.
You have a character
in
whose
the
whole
racing
theme
game
is racing go-karts, and you did not put her in your racing go-kart game. What the fuck?
I'm having a brain fart. Click Team, if you want to know my full, there's a third thing that's super important that I cannot remember. I've said it before. If you want me to say it again later, you can always contact me. I'd love to play test your video game. Thank you.
Yeah, just slide into Rise DMs, being like,
please,
hey,
please,
we
please,
hear you
please,
like
please,
FNAF.
please. Please, 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 please. I will do so many free advertisements for you guys. Just let me play test your fucking game.
I legitimately thought you were going to say, I will do so many freaky things.
I will rebrand to Rye Freak if need be, okay? Freak Toast incoming if I get to be a 5 Laps at Freddy's playtester.
Oh no, I can already tell that's going to be the cold open.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. I wasn't sure what it was going to be yet, but that's probably the best one we got so far. And then I guess we're a little over time. If you have time, there's a really big thing we should talk about.
Yeah, we got to talk Into the Pit.
Okay.
I got time.
So yeah, Into the Pit is the last thing that came out. I'll let you lead the charge. What are your thoughts on Into the Pit? Worst game ever?
I love Into the Pit to absolute death and back. Like, I would die and come back just to play more of it.
It might be my favorite FNAF game.
It might be mine as well. Genuinely. It's very up there between like the first game, FNAF 4, Ruin, and now this for me.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, the 3 that battle for favorite are FNAF 1, Help Wanted 2, and Into the Pit.
Help Wanted 2 is also
those are they're like neck and neck.
We have so many good games now.
we do. We're eating so good. It's been banger after banger.
But yeah, I don't want to get into too much of like what I want to say in my video, because I am making a video on Into the Pit.
For sure.
But basically, I don't think this game is meant to be solvable. But I do think that whatever you believe in is probably valid about and it's probably right about this game.
Yeah.
The best way to put my thoughts on it is, if it is canon or if it isn't to the main games, it wouldn't matter either way, because I believe it's a side story. I don't think we're in the same FNAF 1 pizzeria or anything. I don't think any
Yeah.
of that is the same. I think this is just like a different Freddy's location in a different part of the world doing its own thing.
I could see that. I do like, I've seen some people imply, or some people make the case for it being an in-universe game because of the framing in the game itself, where like the main menu's on a TV screen, as is the game over screen, and things of that sort. I think it being an in-universe game works as long as you are okay with saying some of the Easter eggs are meant just for us, not for the in-universe player of the game.
Yeah, because what does it mean if Gregory is playing this game and he finds GGY and he's like, huh?
Huh? Or correct me if I'm wrong, Kids That Play is a Tales story, right? Or is that Fazbear Frights?
Kids That Play is Fazbear Frights.
Okay. I'm trying to think of any other Tales references within the game. And GGY comes to mind. Hyperdroid didn't make it. Hyperdroid, make your Easter egg video. I need you to find the shit I missed.
As far as I can tell, and there's something else that I don't bring up in my video script, but there's a lot of cut content from the game. And some of it is related to security breach and things like that. Like Vanny was cut.
Yes. Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't think this is a hot take. My prediction on Vanny's like mini game that was cut, I think it would have been accessed through Save the Kids.
I think, yeah.
Because Save the Kids feels like the perfect mini game to hide a secret in, like they did for Collect the Hats, and they didn't. And the fact that I think the implication of the cut Vanny minigame was you were leading kids to like a trap. That being accessed in Save the Kids feels like it just fits really well.
Save the Kids is probably the weirdest arcade cabinet in terms of just like,
oh yeah,
because it does feel like there was something there that is not there now. And also I think straight up it is also probably the least fun one of those arcade cabinets.
The Asteroids Balloon Boy one is the least fun in my opinion. Asteroids is boring and takes forever.
I think it's just very funny to watch Balloon Boy soaring around in space.
That is funny. I think the most fun might be the Space Invaders one, but Space Invaders just generally, I guess it's technically like Galaga because they fly in.
I like the Frogger one a lot.
Frogger one's good. I think, and I always want to say this in case anyone hasn't heard it yet. If you're trying to grind out tickets, just play Helpulys.
Yeah. Honestly.
It's by far the easiest way to get tickets in that game.
My poor fingers after that.
It's the speedrun strat. I think to get the 3-star ending, you need 100 tickets. Is just hop in Helpulys and get 100 tickets, and it sucks every time.
Yeah, you use an auto clicker or something.
I'll see. I mean, the leaderboards just went up yesterday. I'll have to check what's like legal and what the actual rules for it are, because I kind of just been guessing. If it's legal to use an auto clicker for Helpulys, we're so back.
Yeah, you're gonna get through there immediately. Otherwise, in terms of the actual story, I think it's very interesting that they did like 80% of it within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. The original story of Into the Pit, like this game starts halfway through, and the first 10 minutes of the game is the other half.
Yeah, that's something I didn't even think of. It just cuts out a lot of the beginning of the story, probably just because with how
there's no threat.
With how they're going to explore, with how the game ends up exploring Oswald's world anyway, you don't really need like a prologue.
Exactly. And like it makes the most sense gamifying it to start the game when there is an active threat.
Yeah.
You get everything you need before the active threat and in the first daytime segment. Everything else is like, okay, now we can play a game.
Shout out, by the way, I wasn't sure if this would change in the final game or not, but there is a kid named Mike.
There sure is.
And
he's part of that missing shot incident.
And it's like, how many different Mikes do we always talk about how many Jeremys there are. Let's talk about how many Mikes there are. All right. We've got Into the Pit Mike. We've got Michael Brooks. Yeah. We've got Michael Afton, who is probably also Mike Schmidt. There's a lot of Mikes.
Probably, but maybe not in the movie because we're not there
maybe
yet.
Not.
You don't know. Maybe is, maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's so many Mikes, so many Jeremys, and God.
And I was thinking,
I will say, what, not to get too far into your video that you're going to put out on it, I think one of the biggest questions, and hopefully, if you don't feel comfortable answering it, totally fine. Are we actually time traveling and into the pit?
I think there's enough evidence there that makes me think, yes, it is time travel. Specifically,
I am currently against it.
I just think that when you consider things like the doors changing or like the rat, those are things that like other people are experiencing, but only Oswald seems to be aware, like, oh yeah, that rat's from the 80s and that thing used to have doors, but now it doesn't.
My only thinking of it is because I agree. The big two, the like two of the bigger pieces of evidence for time travel is the door and the rat. I fully agree with that. My thinking really can only go to both of those happen after Oswald has gone through the pit. And we know that the agony is giving him hallucinations from night 4 and things like that, or from day 4, I should say, and things like that. So my only thinking is the door, nobody walks through it besides Oswald. So that could be a hallucination. The rat, it's a stretch. My only explanation is the rat was already in Jeff's and us capturing it in the past was just us in the ball pit finding it or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, have we ever stopped to consider that maybe Oswald's just huffing fumes in the ball?
True.
No, but like,
true.
I would argue that there is evidence that it's time travel still with the doors because those doors still exist before Oswald ever enters the pit.
Yeah, and they don't exist after Agony starts messing with his mind.
So are you saying you believe he's just not seeing them anymore, but they're still there?
Yeah, I think it, because my real thinking is, here's being super real, and I think in the video I even say this. The main reason I'm against time travel is because we don't have any precedent or evidence in the games for how time travel could occur, but we do have precedent and evidence in the games and books for another explanation of him going through the memories of the victims. So if we can find any explanation for the door and the rat, I'm going to go for not time travel every time.
I think
that's my logic. That's my like thought process.
I think it's possible that's just both, but based on what we see in the game itself, and I'm just considering this as the game presents it, not as the books present it, because it seems to
Agreed.
It seems to be at least a little bit clear to me that they are going to change some things about it to make them fit better and work better as games. I think
yeah.
In terms of the game itself, I think it is probably time travel. I'm more iffy on the original short story. That one,
yeah, I think the
yeah.
games do make a stronger case for time travel. I agree on that. That like, and I don't like. I fully agree that like it's a very possible, if not more likely, theory. It is time travel. But and I do agree with you that like the original story doesn't really, because the problem with the original story, he doesn't go back to Freddy's after the missing child incident.
Right.
So we really don't know. Whereas in the games, we do, and things change in the present. So I think the games do definitely lean towards time travel, but I'm still on kind of what we see. My basic theory is that like in the epilogues, how Jake reaches out to Millie at the end of the epilogues,
right?
We're kind of doing that with the missing child incident. That's my basic thought process.
Speaking of Millie, great segue into those secret games.
True. What do you think about them?
Well, you know what they say about my girl Eleanor. She came to the games and she's very powerful.
She's real. She's real and very powerful.
But no, I was specifically, since the final trailer dropped, I thought for sure Eleanor, she's coming. And I'm surprised that she never makes like a physical appearance in the game outside of the secret game. And you know, that one Easter
especially
egg.
Since the Stitch Wraith does.
Yeah, the Stitch Wraith does. He appears as a very prominent Easter egg. And there is an Easter egg that I've seen apparently happens on Switch specifically. Don't know about that exactly, but there is an Easter egg where you can see Eleanor's silhouette behind the ball pit sometimes.
Interesting. Yeah, because I mean, Eleanor and the ball pit, they're very connected.
Yeah, that they're like homies. If two inanimate objects could be homies.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll tell you what. The best thing that this game did for us, like content creators, is give us in-game sprites for Eleanor and the Stitch Wraith.
Yes, it's so nice that
What
now
a
we have
gift.
those to work with.
I'm never fucking using those cropped graphic novel pictures or the character encyclopedia picture again for these motherfuckers.
Never using the Lady Fizzy art again.
Exactly. You are going to get your 15 pixel Stitch Wraith and you're going to like it. All right. But yeah, I'm very interested in kind of what that means for the game itself. And here's one, the fetch minigame.
Yeah. I'm really excited.
Do you think that's Andrew? Because I don't think that's Andrew.
So what I took the fetch minigame is as first off, I'm a full believer that this deconfirms that Andrew is Golden Freddy.
Okay.
Because we know in the books that Andrew is attached to Fetch's battery, which is why he's in the Stitch Wraith, because he uses Fetch's battery.
Correct.
And
Golden Freddy is haunted in that minigame.
Yeah, Golden Freddy is haunted in that minigame, and Fetch is present. We're playing as presumably the main character of Fetch.
That's what I assume.
I think, yeah, I don't really have any reason to believe it's not Andrew at that point.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. Because like the whole thing with because I saw some people saying we're playing as Andrew getting killed by Fetch. I don't think that lines up. I understand that this minigame doesn't super follow the Fetch story like at all. It's not even close. But the fact that Count the Ways and To Be Beautiful's minigames are essentially just a summary of that story, it would be weird for Fetch's to not be.
Yeah. Also, can we mention how the Fetch sprite looks like Goddard from Jimmy Neutron?
It's really funny. Someone pointed out, like, hey, why does he look like that? And everyone was like, well, if it looked like Fetch, people would just go, that's a weird dog. They need to really make sure it's clear that it's a robot.
Yeah, they need us to know. And, like, some of the sprites in those minigames are not at all clear. I know that our good friend...
No one understood Bon Bon.
Yeah, I know our good friend Isaac the Baddest... they had specific thoughts on what that item was, and it was not Bon Bon.
It sure looks like something that isn't Bon Bon. But, you know, I don't know if they're going to be doing magic, so they might not need a wand or anything like that. We'll leave that there.
We'll leave that. We'll let that one air out.
Yeah, no, I think because I was hopping around a lot of live streams, specifically like what I really enjoyed doing was finding like streamers playing this game who are new to FNAF and got in ending and went, well, is there anything else? And being like, actually, if you want the third ending, I can give you the hints for it. I just like doing that. But everyone I saw who was like new or casual and didn't catch it was Count the Ways went, what the fuck is that for Bon Bon?
That is hilarious. No, that's like, okay, the sprite work in this game is very good. That's like the one bad one.
Yeah, that is the one bad sprite in this game. And I mean, I get like it's hard to do that with that art style. Maybe just make it Bon Bon.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't need Freddy's arm.
Yeah, because it does just look like the magic scepter, as we'll call it.
Or even better yet, make it a guillotine.
Yeah, make it a guillotine, or, you know, have the screen
just like the story does.
Or, you know, even better. You have her standing in the box, there's nothing in it, guillotine blade from the right side of the screen, right across.
And then, like, right as it gets to her, cut. Oh, I just smacked my microphone.
Yeah, like
right as it gets to her, just cut the game. Like kind of like you do with Fetch, where like he starts getting mauled, game ends.
I do think it's
the blade gets to her, game ends.
I do think it's also like very interesting how those secret minigames all seemed based on the FNAF 2 minigames.
Yes, I've seen some people saying that's evidence for loop theory, if you've heard that getting floated around.
I have, and I don't buy it. I just don't.
I understand loop theory, but I feel like loop theory so for those of you who don't know what that means, in the epilogues, it's pretty much almost directly stated that several of the victims of Fazbear Frights are stuck in these kind of like purgatory loops, reliving their deaths in this ball pit for some reason. And that's what I kind of went into earlier. In the end of it, Jake from the Stitch Wraith falls into this ball pit and starts one by one helping those people to find peace. The loop theory is stating that this game we're playing is after Into the Pit, and it's Oswald stuck in his own like purgatory memory loop, and that's why it's like not quite the same. That's why there's so many weird Easter eggs, and part of that theory is the FNAF 2 victims' memories are starting to merge with the other memories of this ball pit, and that's why Foxy Go 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 is showing Millie, and that's why Give Gifts Give Life is showing the character from To Be Beautiful. I see that theory, but I feel like that theory is less logical and evidence-based and more so a way to explain all of this game as meaningful.
Yeah, that's a big problem when it comes to theorizing about this game, is it doesn't provide us with very much, and outside sources like the original books, we don't know how relevant those are to actually solving what is happening within it. Especially since they do change.
Yeah.
Uh
This is very. I mean, every ending from this book is a different ending or every ending from this game is different from the ending in the book. So, after the step trap or whatever you call him has been stopped, essentially. Like in the books, we don't. I'm pretty sure Jeff is alive in the epilogues. Am I wrong in that? I may be misremembering.
I don't recall Jeff coming back, but we know for a fact that like if we're sticking with the ending that is closest to what happens in the actual original story, then Yellow Rabbit is still alive and Jeff dies.
Yeah.
But
which presents a big problem because that doesn't like the Yellow Rabbit doesn't appear again in Fazbear Frights.
No, and like if we take it further than that, if we go, okay, Yellow Rabbit is dead and Jeff is alive, his family then stays in town. That also like I don't think that happens in the original.
And Jeff's Pizza is closed by the epilogues, I believe, which if they turned a new leaf and made everything better, that wouldn't line up.
Yeah, it just
I mean, unless some people say that the Yellow Rabbit is just Eleanor in a disguise. I think that's lame. I hope that's not true. But I guess you could argue that's what's happening.
I think my personal theory for what it is it is a spring body suit. It may be the one that William did the killing in during the MCI.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think it is a physical spring body suit infected with agony that's just at the bottom of the ball pit.
It could be
it's just in there.
I think it could be the one from the MCI. It could be the one from the DCI. I'm leaning towards MCI. And I
don't think William's in there.
No, I don't think William's in there. I think what happens is he wears that suit, it gets tucked away. Maybe it's even brought over to a different Freddy's or something. And then it comes alive and just reenacts what it remembers. And it remembers.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too.
Oh man,
I do
kids
think
die here. That's awesome, I guess.
Yeah, sick. I do think the thing that comes out of the ball pit and pretends to be Oswald's father, I think physically in this real world of this game is just Oswald's father. I think it's appearing as the Yellow Rabbit to Oswald.
Oh,
because I think that makes more sense than it appearing as Oswald's father to everybody else.
So you think it's like a possession thing?
Yes, I do.
I can see that,
especially with the game over that you get if you fail the skill check at the like very end of the game, where Oswald then gets like turned.
Yeah, I can probably
mainly just from like what we've seen Agony do. It makes more sense that it can make itself look monstrous to Oswald, who has already been in that ball pit, than make a monster look normal to everybody else who has never gone into the ball pit.
And see, I agree that makes more sense, but that also makes a lot of the point of the game itself moot, because we know that Oswald is physically looking for his dad in the pizzeria, and he like hears evidence of him being in there.
Well, that to me goes back to this lines up better if you don't believe the time travel, because then in my thought is like in the epilogues, Detective Larson kind of gets trapped in his own mind. Via the memories implanted onto him from Eleanor. So I'm thinking that both that suit and Oswald's father are in that pit, but Oswald is looking for his dad in these memories to try to break him out of that like blacked out hold that the pit has on him.
I suppose, yeah. That like I said earlier, I think whatever you believe is probably right.
It's weird
because
it's a weird game.
There is one last thing I wanted to mention about.
There's really no clean answer.
There is one last thing I wanted to mention about Yellow Rabbit, and I'm not sure you probably have heard this before. Have you ever listened to just the Yellow Rabbit's voice lines before?
Oh yeah. They are. Sorry, say your thought on him, not to cut you off. Yes, I have.
There are two lines specifically that stand out to me specifically. And it's him saying, I think the line is, "I'll make you suffer as I have suffered."
Mm-hmm.
And the other is, "You can run away, but I always come back." That to me almost makes it sound like this is a post Springlock William. And that makes no sense.
Exactly. Like once William has been springlocked, he's a part of that suit.
Yeah.
You cannot get him out of that suit. And he's not in this suit.
There is like a distinct possibility that this Yellow Rabbit character is just not anything like that. It could just be a complete manifestation of agony on its own. Like, oh my god.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's not a suit, it's just an actual demon or something.
Does William Afton's agony manifest?
Yeah.
I mean, especially with how it reacts to the William and Henry photo.
Yeah.
You know, it has its little fairy godparents moment.
On some level,
and it freaks out.
On some level, that thing at the very least thinks it's Afton.
Yeah. And maybe that's why it works, is that it sees a visual of Afton, and that's not me, and has that little crisis.
Or even better, that is me. And then it realizes, oh, what the hell am I?
Or even better, why do you have a photo of my ex-boyfriend? And he's looking at Henry being all scratched out.
Picks up that photo of Henry. He's like, that fucking... Why is he so good looking?
God. Why does he look like that? I gotta scratch this out more. I'm distracted now. You've reminded me of my homoerotic thoughts, and now you've escaped with your father. Damn you.
And then maybe gets put into Foxy. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know. Maybe I see the theory, but it's weird.
That's the thing that makes me think that this isn't the same Freddy's as like FNAF 1 or the original MCI, because Foxy's totally deactivated throughout most of the game, which makes me think if Oswald does get stuffed, he totally could possess that Foxy, but it's just a different one.
And it lines up, like the fact that he's always, and it's one of those things where it lines up, but it is confirmation bias. Because like, oh, he's always surrounded by Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. Well, yeah, because Foxy's not here.
Yeah.
So like, is that evidence, or is that just because Foxy's not here?
And I mean,
I don't know.
There is the thing where like he always consciously does not want to go near Pirates Cove.
Yeah.
That I think is interesting. But like
it is definitely interesting. I don't know. I see that theory. I think it's plausible. I just don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But I guess that's FNAF week, right? Is there anything else you wanted to, any upcoming things you wanted to shout out, or any other thoughts you wanted to get out there?
No, I'm mostly just, a lot of this has been announcements rather than actual releases. So I'm just very excited to wait and see what happens. Very excited for the week before when that comes out. I think that will definitely be worth covering.
Oh, 100%. I'm glad it comes out on a Tuesday so I can release the video that week. Like,
oh my god. That book comes out.
It's 16 days.
Yeah. 3 days before I turn 22.
Oh
yeah,
shit.
That's like my birthday gift from Scott Goff.
It comes out, wait, we can play this game. It comes out 5 days after I become 26. So it's right there.
Let's fucking go.
But anyway, do you have any upcoming projects coming out that I can shout out?
Yeah, actually, I am now in the finishing stages of my 10-year anniversary video. It was meant to come out August 1st, but it ended up being a really huge project. I got another editor involved in it and some guests as well. Hell, Rye, you know about this. I invited you to be a part of it, but I actually had to cut it down because it was going to be too long. And like, if I kept,
I remember we were talking about that.
Yeah, if I left that video at the original length I wanted it to be, I'd be working on it like for 3 months.
Yeah, sometimes, look, the number one rule of film and just YouTube video creation in general, cut your darlings, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how much you like a part of a video, you got to cut it to where it's good.
And the darlings I ended up cutting were the books and the movie, so I'll have to cover those later on in like maybe a part 2.
Yeah.
But for now, I would say be aware, because this is going to be my longest video ever, and it goes.
Let's go.
It's FNAF 1 through Help Wanted 2. So yeah, and then the ends of the fifth video
that's a
should
big
come
chunk.
out after that.
Hell yeah. Be on the lookout for that again. Link in the description. And I think YouTube allows, the way YouTube works, you should just be able to click at DMuted in the title, and that'll bring you to the channel. So just, there's links there. You'll find it. Thank you again for being on the podcast.
Always
and
happy to be
for
here.
everyone out there, thank you for watching Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast, where the pizza abilities are endless. We hope you enjoy your future patronage. Bye-bye for now.
Adios.